For this year's Trail Bike of the Year, we tested 10 trail bikes, all with rear suspension travel of 120 to 140mm, and all priced between £3,000 and £3,500, with a little bit added on for postage and packaging where needed. We tested them here in the UK and then took the top 6 bikes out to our friends at Blacktown Trails just outside Madrid to whittle them down to our eventual winner. And I can reveal that the YT Jeffsy Pro 29 came a close second in this year's test. This is the 7th trail bike of the year that I've been involved in, and every year the calibre of bikes gets better and better. If you've not watched one of our trail bike of the year videos before, I'm going to talk a little bit about the bike, then I'll go into the frame, its kit, and then how it rides. And as ever, don't forget to like and subscribe to the BikeRadar YouTube channel, and click the little bell icon because then you'll get a notification every time we upload a new video. In late 2018, YT updated the Jeffsy. It's their trail bike with 140mm of travel in its 29er guise. They also do a 27.5 version, and in the 29 family they do a Pro Race, which actually gets 150mm of travel. Our Jeffsy 29 Pro is 140 at the back though. In 2018, the Jeffsy won Trail Bike of the Year because it was the most fun bike I have ever ridden, and I still stand by that fact. It was a little bit out of date, there were various things that could have been improved, but everyone who jumped on it absolutely loved it. So when they released the new version later on in 2018, the bike became more capable, but we sort of felt a little bit less fun in some regards. This year's bike keeps that same frame, there's a few spec changes. It is still a super capable trail bike that almost feels like it's a mini enduro bike. And that is why some of our testers really loved the Jeffsy this year. YT have produced one of the cleanest looking frames in this year's test. It's got a carbon front and rear triangle with a nicely dropped top tube to give plenty of standover should you need to get off in more technical terrain. The frame's got plenty of protection down on the chainstay and a removable down tube protector too that's bolt on, bolt off for if that gets damaged. One of the other things that we really liked with this frame design is that through the rear triangle there's less shelving for mud to collect if you're riding in mucky UK conditions. Cable routing is also great. The cables go in and where they come out they're actually clamped in place. This means they're not going to shuffle up and down and there's less rattling going on. It's just one of the nice little touches that YT have put into the frame. The 140mm of rear wheel travel is controlled by a 4-bar suspension linkage. This is a very tried and tested design that has stood the test of time. YT have given the Jeffsy absolutely bang up-to-date geometry on the Jeffsy 29. For a size large, we're looking at a 470mm reach with 435mm chainstays. However, extra large and extra large get 440mm stays. This is combined with a 435mm seat tube. This means that if you're a little bit smaller but like a longer bike, you could probably just about fit on the size up. You get a 66° head angle combined with a steep 77° seat angle. Now the Jeffsy does have a flip chip to alter the geometry a little bit, and if you put it in higher setting, you get angles that are 0.5 degrees steeper. However, I prefer the feel of the bike in the low setting, and I don't think the low setting particularly compromises the bike in terms of shape for climbing. YT is a direct sales brand from Germany, so as you might expect, value on this bike is pretty darn good. This version of the bike comes in at £3,400 and then there's a roughly €60 charge for European shipping, so we're talking under £3,500. For that you get the full carbon frame and suspension from RockShox. Up front there's a 150mm RockShox Pike Select Plus fork, so this does get the charge damper but you don't get independent high-speed damping control. At the back you get a RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus shock. So again, you get a compression switch on there and it comes with a piggyback, and this is important because it gives extra oil volume in the shock, which means, in theory, better control and better consistency on long descents. SRAM provide the GX Eagle 12-speed group set and a pair of G2 RSC brakes. And you get quite a lot of E13 finishing kit on the bike, including the TRS Plus wheel set. These are shod in a pair of Maxxis Minion DHR2 tyres in a 2.4 inch width. and they come in a max grip compound at front and a max terror at the back. This is a change from the E13 TRS Plus and TRS race tyres that we saw last year that were a little bit Marmite with some of our testers. So in general, we see this change of tyres as a good thing from YT. Finishing off the build is a YT branded Postman dropper post that I particularly like the name, with 150mm of drop in a size large, and sat on top of that is an SDG radar mountain saddle. So those are all the facts and figures you need to know about the Jeffsy. But how does it ride on the trail? Because that's the most important thing. As I alluded to earlier on in this video, the Jeffsy is incredibly capable and feels a bit like a mini enduro bike. This really stood out when we hit the bigger, chunkier, rocky tracks out near Madrid. The guys from Blacktown Trails really set us up with some incredible test tracks, and the Jeffsy really showed its true colours when things got a little bit gnarlier. The rear suspension on the YT is really good. It's incredibly supple and smooth just sort of beyond the sag point when you're going over smaller bumps and a lot of higher frequency chatter, so it really kind of smooths the way. When things get a bit bigger with bigger impacts, the progression towards the end of the stroke is very well controlled. What this means is that when you hit those bigger bumps, the shock will get towards the end of its travel, but you're not banging off the bump stops of the shock. Your ankles aren't being blown off the pedals. What this means is that you can really open up the bike, really let go of the brakes and point it where you want to go. And the back end just tracks the ground beautifully. It doesn't throw up any surprises, there's no quirks in there. It just gets on with the job. The RockShox Pike plugged in at front with its nice stiff chassis. The Select Plus damper is very good. It is the charged damper, just without the fine adjustment at the top. And I don't think that really matters. RockShox seem to have done a great job with the fork. The composure and the confidence that the front and rear suspension gives you is only matched by the Maxxis Minion DHR2 tyres. The max grip compound at front is nice and soft, so the tyre works really well on a wide range of terrain. Whether it's the rocks with a little bit of dust over the top that we had in Spain, or the roots and mud that we had back in the UK, the Minion DHR2 is a great tyre. At the back, having it in that Max Terra compound, it's not quite as sticky, but there's still plenty of grip for braking on a wide variety of terrain. So you can be sure that there's going to be a lot of control through the bike. The G2 is SRAM's new trail brake, and I think they just about get away with it on the Jeffsy. The Jeffsy does have that feeling of a mini enduro bike, so some larger riders or maybe the more aggressive ones might have wanted a code, but I do think the G2 has just about got enough power. I like the lever shape, I like the lever feel as well, and with the RSC lever you can adjust the bite point and the lever reach. So when the trail does open out in front of you, the Jeffsy is a bike that absolutely hauls. But what's it like when things are a little bit tighter or maybe even rising up a hill? Here, the suspension is good, but I don't think it's got quite the same pizzazz and pop that some of the more trail-orientated bikes have. It's not wallowy, but if you are going for longer trail bike rides or ones where there's going to be a bit more pedaling, you might want to play a little bit with rear shock pressure just to get a little bit more agility out of the rear suspension. It doesn't slow you down, but it doesn't encourage you to push hard on the pedals when you're traversing a hillside. The shock itself feels relatively lightly damped as well, so it will move about, especially under pedaling inputs. When it comes to the climbs, it's not going to get you any KOMs necessarily. There's a little bit of wallow in there when you're pedaling hard, and if you're going to stand up on the pedals and mash, you're definitely going to break through that sort of anti-squat chain tension that's keeping the suspension stable. I think this is what almost holds a bike back a little bit in the spectrum of trail bike of the year. If you're looking for a bike that you're going to go and do big days in the hills, or you want to go and blast around your local flowy trail centre, the Jeffsy is going to be fun, but I don't think it's going to be the best tool for that job. Where it really works best, I guess, is on those more winch and plummet rides where you're just going to spin up pretty socially up a fire road and then get to the top of the hill and then point it down something nice and steep and gnarly. That's where the Jeffsy really shines. So if you are looking for more of an all-rounder package, a bike that wants to go and do everything, maybe the Jeffsy isn't quite there. As I said at the top of the video, it was a very tight race to win Trail Bike of the Year this year. Ultimately, the Propane Eugene did win because it had that all-round package. It was good up a hill, but it was also good down a hill. During testing, I had quite a lot of feedback from other riders, and it was interesting to see that the riders who come from a more downhill and enduro background did prefer the YT over the Propane. However, that's because they are looking for those bikes that really perform on the descents, and they're not bothered particularly about how it goes up a hill. For me, a trail bike has to be an all-rounder, and that's why it came just into second place. Personally, I think the YT is a great bike. So if you're the kind of rider that loves winching to the top and then plummeting as fast as possible on a trail bike down a hill, I don't think you can go too far wrong with the new Jeffsy. So that's the YT Jeffsy Pro 29. I think it's a great bike, especially if you're looking to hammer it down the hills. Didn't quite win Trail Bike of the Year though, but let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss any of our videos.